You can also call it the power of prayer. We're going to talk about what prayer really is and how we can amplify it, make the most out of it. We're going to talk about what prayers are answered and which are not. We'll give it a few more seconds just to make sure that video and audio are good. So please confirm. Let me know that video is good, that audio is good. I guess we'll have some comments in a few seconds, and then we'll just start. In the meantime, please say hi in the chats, write where you're from, what your name is, just so we can kind of get a feel of who's connected and from where. Okay, are we live? That's a question that I still don't have an answer to. Okay, so we have confirmation from YouTube. Rachel, if you can just also give an okay that we're good on Facebook. It doesn't, are we? I hope we are. So please, if you're on Facebook watching, please say hi, just so we know that we're not broadcasting to the air on Facebook. Okay, and we'll start in a few seconds. So, okay, good. So, okay, so already I see, wow, I already see a bunch of people on YouTube. Samuel from Arizona, and R.A. from Portland, and Larry from South Africa, and Jose from the Netherlands, and Augustus from Finland, Anne from Portugal, Danny from Israel, Patricia from Ohio, Mariana from London, Abigail from Barcelona, many more. Keep typing, it's awesome. Gale from Ethiopia, awesome. Kubra from Turkey, that's great. So keep writing where you're from, and I hope just reading the different places that people are connecting right now from all around the world to talk about what prayer is. I think that's already inspiring. And we'll start. I think we can start. Yeah, we're going to have an awesome session. Okay, I guess we're good to go. So welcome to Kabbalah Explained Simply. In today's session, we're going to talk about what is prayer, or the power of prayer, you could say. I was deciding what to give the name because they're both they both reflect what we're going to talk about today. We usually perceive prayer as something that's usually limited to religion, but it's not, and even it's not necessarily related only to spirituality. It's an intimate action between a person and a force that they see as sacred or divine. A lot of people see meditation as prayer. Some people see it as an act between them and what they call God. But not everyone's prayer is related to this being called God. Some relate it to charms and spells, and some see it simply as an act of truth or love or something that's related to their happiness. So in the session today, we're going to uncover what true prayer is, true prayer is, and how to really amplify the potential of prayer. So as usual, feel free to ask any questions in the chats. I'll be looking here and there, and Rachel is supporting in the chat, so she can post links that I'll talk about, or if there are any tech issues, she can try and help you out. And Ruth will be grabbing your questions and posting them to me, so I just see them in one nice document. So we're good to go. And of course, as usual, if you enjoy this session, these sessions, this one hasn't started. If you enjoy these sessions, then I would appreciate it if you click the like button, click subscribe. It basically will make it reach more people so they can also join us. So let's get into it. So let's start talking a little bit about the power of prayer. So prayer is something immense. It's very, very powerful. It has the power to cure illnesses. It has the power to end wars. Prayer has the power to lift you from a state of darkness that you feel. It has the power to turn everything that's evil into goodness. It has the power to turn hatred into love. It basically has the power to change everything in reality. And all we need to do is to learn how to pray correctly. And if we do, then our prayers will be answered. And if we don't pray, there's already a question. If we don't pray, it's a question from Shusmita, sorry. You wrote to me last week how to pronounce it. If you can please write again. I think it was Shus, I'm not sure. But what if we don't pray? So I think you'll find by the end of this session that everyone prays, but it only depends what kind of prayer we have. So let's start off with answering the first question that I would like to answer. And that is, what are we praying to? Okay, because if we are praying, it means we're praying to something, right? So some can call it to a God or a divine force. Kabbalah just calls it nature. Sometimes it calls it the creator as well, but it's the same. In Kabbalah, nature and the creator are the same. It's a force. It's not like a being that, like we imagine, like a person, like we humanize God. No. According to Kabbalah, there is no such thing as God that way, but instead God or nature is considered as a force, a law of reality. But whenever we're praying, we're always praying to something, right? We're not praying, if you're in an act of prayer, and a prayer can be anything you really want, anything you truly desire. So if you truly desire something, then it means that you're in a sort of prayer. Now, to better understand this, let's try and understand what reality is, meaning if we're not praying to ourselves, we're praying to something, then what is outside of ourselves, right? So let's imagine for a second, well, let's not imagine, this is how it is. What we are is we are a box, like a closed box, that has 5 openings to reality. And these are our 5 senses. So sense of smell, taste, touch, hear, and sight. These are our 5 senses, right? And each one of these senses is, you could say, it's not really a sense. It's more like a filter. And something hits these filters, and then it draws this picture that we call reality. So what's really outside of us, we don't really know. We have no idea what's outside of us, but only that there is maybe some kind of force that goes through our senses, and we don't know what this is. And like we said, these are not really senses, they're more like filters. Like if you shine light through an orange lens, then you'll see orange light. So is the light orange? No, your filter is orange. And as a result of that, you're seeing a filtered version of what's out there. By looking at the filtered version, can you know what the original color of light is? No, you cannot, unless you understand how the filter works. And then you can. Right? Okay, so even you can think of an example that will maybe help better explain this example. Think of a fish that isn't very smart. And a fish also has a perception of reality. They don't have 5 senses like we do exactly. They have different kinds of senses. But they're also some kind of closed box with however many senses they have, right? And they too experience reality through their senses and get some kind of picture in the little brain that these fishies have. So is it correct to say, okay, the fish have a limited perception, but we experience reality? Of course not, and everyone agrees with that today, science too, that it's not really known what's outside of us. It's known that we interact with billions of bytes of information every second, but we can only interpret a really, really small portion of them. So what is in fact outside of us, we don't know. We just know what we can perceive. We only see the color that goes through the filter, but we don't know what the filter is, and we don't know what's outside of the filter. What we do know, is that when we pray, then we're praying to this thing that's outside of us, right? that we think is maybe more powerful. It's something that's greater. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you feel that this thing is inside of you, because in fact, you discover all of reality inside of you. So it's you trying to interact through what we call prayer, and a prayer is anything you truly desire, with this force, inside or outside, it doesn't really matter. And according to Kabbalah, this force that's unknown, according to Kabbalists who have discovered this force, they don't just talk about it from kind of imagination, but they actually attained it and reached connection with this force. And by the way, I see that someone wrote that there's some lagging here. Is this for everyone, or is this just for you, Abraham? If it's for everyone, then I'll try and maybe change something here in the setting if I can. So let me know if everyone else sees the video. Okay. Okay. So sorry, I'm going to continue. So to conclude, what are we praying to? Then we're praying to this force that's outside of us, and according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, and according to Kabbalists who have attained this force, then they describe this force as pure light. Now, that's still a bit abstract, I know, but try to imagine what unlimited love would be like. Try to imagine what eternal fulfillment would be like, right? Not the fleeting and unlasting pleasures we experience in this world, and we call them pleasures, although they disappear immediately. I'm not talking about that, but try to imagine something that fulfills you, like you're this conduit, that it just keeps flowing through you. Not that it fulfills you and empties you simultaneously, like pleasures in this world, but it's ongoing, it's infinite, it's eternal, it's the most, I don't know, try imagine, the most powerful, amazing, beautiful, eternal pleasure, pure goodness, all of those things, like the best thing you can imagine. That's basically what this force is. You can say in simple words that it's a force of pure love, although love is a tricky word because the way we interpret love is usually egoistic. I love something as long as it fulfills me, and if it no longer fulfills me, then I stop loving it. That's egoistic love. So try to imagine pure love, like a mother's love to her newborn baby, which is like just the purest thing. That's egoistic too, but we can still kind of take that as an example. Right? So if this force, this is the force we're interacting with, right? And this is the force that we want to our prayers to reach. We want our prayers to be answered through interacting with this force. And a prayer isn't something that I take a book and it says here, pray this, say that, and then I read it and that's a prayer. No, a prayer in Kabbalah is an internal desire from the heart, a true desire. So you can read 1,000 books, but if that isn't built up in you as a true plea, a true cry, a true call, then that's not considered a prayer. Okay, now I want to ask you a question. What your prayer is. Now, try and be honest. I'm guessing that you're not going to write in the chat that you pray to be rich, even though you might secretly want that. And I'm guessing you're not going to pray. I'm guessing you're not going to write things like that, and that's fine. But I would like you to write something that you feel that is sincere, that you really would want, or at least something that you would like to want. That's also considered something. It's a prayer before prayer, it's called in Kabbalah. So it'll also be good to see later on in the session if what you wrote is the kind of prayer that will be answered. If you feel more comfortable, then maybe try and write someone else's prayer, maybe your loved one, what they would be praying for. So I'd love to see that in the chat. It'll take a few seconds just for the slight delay we have here. In the meantime, let me take a look here if we have any questions. I already see we do. the first question, are prayers actually effective in the spiritual realm? The answer is absolutely. And like I said in the beginning of the session, prayer is so powerful, it can change everything. It can cure illness, it can end wars, it can lift darkness and turn it into light. It can turn hatred into love, negativity into positivity. It can change reality, but you need to know how to pray correctly. Okay, so I'm praying for world peace and a buyer for my condo. Okay, thanks, Lydia. That's an honest prayer. World peace and a buyer for your condo. Nice. I'm praying to see my grandmother in my dreams. I'm praying to harness my ego and see the other side, to see things differently. Nice. I pray finding truth and be guided back home. Wow, it's going up so fast. I'm not even able to follow. I pray to understand what reality is for others and for myself. I pray to be able to feel love strongly. Beautiful. I pray that we can live in equal balance with nature and with each other. Very nice. Patricia wrote, I'm very sick, so right now I want to get well. So Patricia, we're also praying for you. Augustus is praying for health and happiness for himself and people around me. Nice. Keep going. X-Ray Vision is asking, but isn't that true of everything? I mean, God knows if we're not sincere or full of BS. Of course, you can't BS the force of nature. You cannot. And we'll soon talk about what the principles of true prayer are. Now, those are a lot of very, very beautiful prayers. And first of all, I'm just enjoying to read them. Hogus is writing, I'm praying to get closer to the Creator in a way that He wants, not in the way that I want. Very nice. Mine, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I pray for peace in the world. Patricia saying, I pray I will be able to be corrected and connected. Nice. Keep writing it. It's beautiful to see, and I think that if you read each other's prayers, it's also strengthening, and that definitely has a lot of psychological impact, by the way, and that's been scientifically proven, actually, that prayer has a positive impact on people who just pray regularly, even from the book, like I mentioned before. Just this act, it brings some kind of psychological calmness and confidence, etc., which is also good. I'm not disrespecting that. Anything that makes a person feel better with true fulfillment, not like this fleeting kind of pleasure, then it's a good thing. But let's imagine for a second, let's try and imagine a scenario. I mean, all these prayers are beautiful, and they really are. Now, if we pray, so some prayers here were kind of global, and some were maybe more honest, like asking for something corporeal. And I think we all, whether we like it or not, we have this in us. We have this kind of, I want to get this, I want to get that, I want this to change, I want that to change. Without thinking about it, these are just inner kind of desires of our heart. So which of these prayers get answered? Now, to help us answer this question, I'm not going to answer you right away. I'm going to show you a funny clip in a few minutes from a movie, but we'll get to that in a minute. So to answer that question, which prayers get answered, I want to do a thought exercise. Let's think, each one think of a loved one. If you're a parent, then think of your child when they were young. Or if you're not a parent, then think of a loved one, a member of your family. And let's try and imagine this loved one. Let's try and imagine the loved one that's young, right? Because it's easier to think of kids asking for all kinds of things that might not necessarily be good for them. So the kid's asking you for all kinds of things. They want to eat candy all day, or play video games, or something else. And these are actually requests that I'm getting from my kids, being 6 of us in the house, meaning 4 kids and my wife, in lockdown, because Israel now is in lockdown, and there's no school now because there's a holiday now. So we're locked in the house, the 6 of us. It's great. And they want to play video games and eat candy all day. And of course, I don't allow it. So in a way, you could say that's their prayer, and I'm not answering their prayers. And by not answering their prayers, am I helping them, or am I harming them? Right? So try and think, taking that example, let's try and think of all the prayers that people have. Would it be good if all these prayers were answered? Let's try and imagine for a second that all of the prayers in humanity, every single prayer a person has right now, any kind of prayer, anything that they consider a prayer. I want to get rich, I want to win the lottery, I want to succeed, I want a bigger house, I want peace for the world, I want war for the world, I want my religion to rule, I want this, I want them to fail, all these kinds of things. There are millions of these prayers in the world, prayers, quote unquote. Let's imagine for a second that all of these prayers would be answered. What would be the result? Would that be something good? Would we then say, okay, this force of nature is good, it's answering all these prayers? Or if it's not answering these prayers, if someone is praying to get rich or to get well or for something, and their prayer isn't answered, then can we then say maybe that this force of nature is not good, is not loving? So I think from the example of the kids, it's pretty clear that what we ask for isn't necessarily what's good for our development, right? Sometimes it is, but it's not necessarily. So we need to understand, if we can understand what's good for our development, like I'll give you another example with my kids, right? I give them all these kinds of educational online like games, things like that to play, like to learn English and maths and things like that. And they know that if they ask me to play those games, then I'll say yes. Because I encourage them to, spend a lot of time. I don't mind if they spend an hour or 2 on the computer if they're learning English or doing maths exercises, which of course I checked before and they're according to good standards, etc. So they know that if they really want some computer time, then they need to ask for that, and then I'll say yes. So they understood what prayer of theirs will be answered, and now they're playing on that. They also sometimes ask for candy and just to play video games, but they know that in most cases will be answered with a no. And they know that if they want to do the stuff that they can, then that will usually be answered with yes. So I want to take a look at a quick clip. It's a fun clip. It's from a movie, and in that movie, the main actor, Jim Carrey, then he's somehow got the powers of God. It's a comedy, and he starts hearing prayers of everyone, of all of humanity. And hold on, let me just find it here. Sorry, I lost the tab. Here it is. And he starts getting all these prayers, and he doesn't know what to do with them. He needs to respond. So he sets up a system, and I'll show you. Let's take a look at it. It's pretty funny. So let's take a look at what would happen if all the prayers of everyone would be answered. So let's take a look.
Prayers, okay, prayers. This creepy whisper thing has to end. Organization and management. That's what I need. I need a system, something concrete. Concentrate. Files. Let all prayers be organized into files.
Well, that takes care of the voices. Not exactly a space saver, though.
Grace might notice. I know. Prayer Post-its! Okay, I need something with a lock. Security, combination, password. Password. Yo!
You've got prayers.
Welcome to the Revelation Superhighway. We bless, no mess. Downloading now. It's good. It's good. This is gonna take a while. 1,527,503 prayer requests. Okay, I had to have made some kind of a dent by now. Oh, come on! Oh. What a bunch of whiners. This is gonna suck up my whole life. You know what? Yes, to all. Yeah, there you go. Now everybody's happy.
An unusually high number of lottery winners has New York officials concerned. So far, 1,100 winning tickets have been turned in, all strangely from the Buffalo area. More on this story as it develops.
Okay, so why did I show you this video? Because it's a comic relief, and it's a funny kind of example of what would happen if everyone got their prayers answered. You know, so like 11,000 people won the lottery, they each won $17, and people wished for all kinds of stuff, not necessarily for the well-being of others. And it's clear that if every single person in the world got their prayers answered, then we would get total chaos, absolute chaos completely. And there's no question about that. So the reason why is because our natural inclination is an egoistic prayer, our natural desire. And that's okay. It's not good and it's not bad, but let's just say what it is. It's an egoistic desire. And egoistic prayers can never be answered. So if you're praying egoistically, then you can ask every day for your whole life to win the lottery, and it won't bring you any closer to winning the lottery. And any kind of request to get fulfillment like that, like winning the lottery, but even things that seem more noble, like I want to be happy, you know. So I think that winning the lottery will make me happy, and someone else thinks just asking to be happy is what they want. They're both similar. They're both driven from an egoistic desire. So anything that comes from that egoistic desire, it cannot interact with that force that's outside of us. Remember that force we spoke about, that force of pure light, pure love, absolute bestowal, unlimited fulfillment. If we're speaking from within our egoism, we cannot interact with that force. We're opposite from it. We have nothing in common with it. We're not in any kind of connection with it. So what prayers are not answered, I think, it's clear now that any egoistic prayer is simply not answered. It's driven from the ego, and it's not in connection with this upper force. Now, let's go on to the maybe more interesting question. So it's pretty clear what prayers are not answered, but in that case, what prayers are answered. So before we go on there, let's take a look at a few questions we might have. Noah is asking, is prayer a feeling or the same? Good question, Noah. So prayer is absolutely the feeling. It's an inner desire of what a person wants. And it doesn't matter if you read it from a book or if you say it in your heart or if you whistle it in a tune. It's any form of a true desire being expressed. And it can be even, a group of criminals who are going to rob a bank and they want to succeed in their action. That's a prayer. They have a true prayer that they want to succeed. It doesn't mean that prayer will get answered. It doesn't mean it brings goodness upon themselves or upon the world, but that is still considered like a prayer because it's a true desire of theirs. Another question. Are we praying for I'm not sure if it's a question. We are praying to something that is beyond our reach. That depends. It's not that it's beyond your reach. It's let's go back to this for a sec. Maybe that will help clarify it. So this is you, right? So basically, your substance, what your substance is, it's a desire to receive. That's your substance. Now, if you pray with the intention in order to receive, this cannot change. This is your hardware. But what you put on that hardware is an intention. And that you can change. You can pray, or you can clothe onto that desire an intention either to receive or to bestow. So if you pray or do anything with the intention in order to receive, then you're working from within this reality. You're not interacting with this at all. I mean, you are, but you're not feeling its true goodness that it is. And therefore you feel reality as negative. You feel things that are corrupt. You feel illness. You feel poverty in the world, wars, destruction. All of these sensations are simply a result of not being in contact with that force. Okay? So it's not that it's beyond your reach, but it's like praying to a wall. Is praying to a wall praying to something that's beyond your reach? No, it's not praying correctly. It's not praying in the right way to the right thing. Is praying to be altruistic and egoistic desire? That's a really good question, Lisa. I'm going to hold on to that question and I'm going to continue, and then we'll get back to that one as well. Let me just put it here so I'll remember to get back to it. Actually, I see some more questions in that field. Praying for others is not egoistic unless it's only for our own benefit that we pray for them. A question from Yvonne. Let's take that as well. We'll answer these questions in a moment. Ruth, if there are similar questions to that, if you can just put them in the top already, that will be great. Okay, let's keep going. So just a quick recap. So we spoke about the power of prayer, that prayer does have the power to do anything, literally anything. We didn't say how, but we just said that it does. A correct prayer has the power to do that. And then we started talking about the fact that we're praying to something always, right? If we're praying, we're trying to interact with something, whether if it's something that we feel that's in ourselves or outside of us, or a God or a divine something, but we pray to something, right? And then we spoke about where prayer comes from, and that all prayers, all the kind of common prayers of humanity are egoistic prayers. And therefore it's good that they're not being all answered, because that would lead to immediate chaos and destruction, because these prayers come from an egoistic, destructive desire. So that leads us to the next question, then which prayers are always answered? And let's take a look. Do I have it on a slide here? No. Okay, so let's watch a clip to understand what prayers are always answered, and then we'll continue the discussion. So this is a clip from our Perceiving Reality series with Tony Kosanek. I'm sure Rachel will post a link to it in the chats in just a second.
A lot of people around the world pray, and so my question would be, what does prayer have to do with Kabbalah? Is it involved? Does it help? Are our prayers even heard?
Well, it all depends on what you mean by prayer, because everybody prays in one way or another. But what are we really doing when we start talking to what we think of as God? And why is it that prayers are so rarely answered? Kabbalah doesn't consider prayer something that's done with the tongue, with the lips. You know, the saying of beautiful, inspiring words that we read, praising the Creator, or even our own spontaneous words. That's the religious model of prayer. The Kabbalists tell us that the upper force doesn't listen to words, but only responds to what is actually in our heart, and that it only answers one kind of prayer, a true prayer, which is a bottom-line, gut-level need. That's the most powerful desire that we have at any given moment. And even then, it has to be the right kind of a desire. See, in religion, a person believes in a God who's in control, and that there are events that happen or may happen to him or her that are felt as either good or bad. Now, if they think that something bad is happening, they start praying. They ask that God change his attitude and instead be kind and take away or prevent the bad event. Make it good. In this kind of a prayer, a person thinks that the Creator's attitude is completely variable, and the prayer is that God should change and my life should remain comfortable. The gut-level desire here is that God should serve me. So this kind of prayer is never answered, because it has nothing to do with why the events happen the way they do, or with the Creator's attitude, and nothing actually changes here. Not the outcome, not God, not the person. In fact, this isn't prayer at all. It's a kind of bribery, but to no effect. In Kabbalah, we also have a Creator and a person in this world, and events that are felt as either good or bad. But because the Kabbalah starts from the principle that all actions of the Creator do not change, that the Creator's attitude is always and only good, therefore all the events in a person's life are also always good. It's just that he can't feel it that way. So obviously the problem is with him and not with the Creator. So in that case, what appeal can a person possibly make? The Kabbalist asks the upper force to change him so that he can feel the event as good by altering his inner nature so that he can sense the loving attitude that the Creator has in sending him that event. In fact, that's the reason he received it, so that he could continue to develop a true need to rise to the level of the attitude of the Creator, to want what the Creator wants to give him. And that need is his prayer. And that prayer is answered immediately. And the man's reality truly changes because he begins to live in and to perceive a very different world.
Okay, so I see the questions are accumulating here, and they're great questions too. I'll just say maybe a few points here, right? Just to kind of conclude this clip. It's pretty condensed, although I think the concept in it is pretty simple. Basically, egoistic prayer is saying, I'm being mistreated by the force of nature. and that force should treat me better, either by improving something in my life, by feeling better, by making more money, by something. In some way, I'm not being treated well, and this force needs to treat me better. That's an egoistic prayer. And again, it's not a bad thing. It's completely natural. Every person has that. Every child has that. We're born with it. It's our nature, and it's fine. But those prayers are not answered. So if you want the truth, that's the truth. These prayers, they're egoistic. They don't interact with the force of nature. Now, of course, in some cases, it seems like they're answered because, I want something to happen, egoistic, I pray for it, and then it happens, and then I say, okay, this works, all right. I got it, I got the trick. I'm going to pray now, and whatever I want, I'll get. But then on the other hand, you have people who are in the same situation, and they're praying as sincerely as the other, and their prayer is not met. So what's happening here? So like we saw in the video, it's this overarching force of reality that's always pushing us towards it, towards connecting with it, towards reaching ultimate goodness, ultimate fulfillment, ultimate perfection. And what seems to us as it feels good to me or it feels bad to me, it isn't always directly related to how we need to come closer to that force. So everything that we feel as bad in this reality, if we feel this poverty or war or illness or just dissatisfaction or depression or unhappiness, anything negative we feel is because we are not aligned with that force of nature. And if we will align ourselves, if we will change, then what we'll find that all the negative in reality will turn into positive, that all illness will become wellness, that all suffering will become pleasure, that all sadness will become joy. That's what we'll find if we change the way we connect to reality, if we change simply our intention. And by doing that, then we will feel the reality that we're truly in. So what's the only prayer that is answered? Maybe to kind of sum it up, it's a prayer for us to change, to become like this force, closer to this force of nature. And that's the only prayer that's answered. And inside that prayer, it will result also in all of the corporeal prayers that you can think of, because people usually pray for something bad to become something good, on whatever level it is. But the reason they feel there's something bad, this negative impact, this negative interaction with reality, the reason why they feel that is simply because they're separated from that force. And if they become connected to that force, they'll discover it's not that they will look at life in a positive way and, put on kind of a positive pair of glasses. No, they will find that their reality changes according to their perception changing, in accordance to it. So that's the secret of prayer, and I hope that you'll take this with you and it will make you think. We're not done yet. I'm just kind of concluding this. I'm still going to answer some questions here, and I'm also going to tell you how you can amplify the power of prayer tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold, how you can take this principle and make it intense, immense, huge. But let's take a quick look at some questions. Okay, so like I said, I'll get back to Lisa's question. Is praying to be altruistic an egoistic desire? Yes, it is an egoistic desire. Every prayer is actually driven from an egoistic desire as long as we don't go through this change in the foundation of how we use our nature. But it's a good prayer. It's a prayer before prayer, and that's also good. That also goes in line with how we describe prayer, because you have no other vessel to pray from, you could say. You can only pray from that egoistic desire to receive. But if from your desire you want to come closer to that force, you want to be more like it, you want it to change you, even though it's driven from an egoistic desire because you have no other desire, that is still considered a prayer. And then there's a whole set of questions about what's defined egoistic prayer. So what about praying for a loved one? Is that egoistic? How is that egoistic? Or ask to end my problems and the pain and others' pain or problems, is that egoistic too? It's a bit hard to hear it, but you know what? I won't answer it. I want you to answer it yourself. Why do you want something good to happen to someone that's experiencing something bad? Is it from an egoistic desire of how you feel, or is it from an altruistic desire that you truly want them, you want them to be more connected to this force of nature? So if your answer is that it's an egoistic desire, it's the same as asking for yourself to turn something bad into something good. But if you're praying for someone else because you want them to connect to a higher level of reality, and from that level discover wellness and nurture and fulfillment, then yes, that is a true prayer. So I can't answer that for you because I don't know your intention, but you can answer it for yourself. Is asking for help wrong? Eddie is asking. It's not wrong. It depends what you're asking for help for. Are you asking for help, like we said before, because you want to rob a bank? Or are you asking for help because you want to come closer and be yourself more loving and more like that force of nature, more in balance with reality? So if it's the latter, then of course it's not wrong. Not only that it's not wrong, it's required. It's required for us to be in contact with this force. At the end of the day, we cannot change ourselves. We need this force to influence us, to impact us, and that force changes us. We'll go into more questions in a moment, and I see that there are heaps of questions. Maybe this is a topic for next week as well. But I want to touch upon one last topic, which is how to amplify the power of prayer. So we understand the fundamental principle, right? So we know how to align our prayer correctly. We said that if we pray in order for us to change, for us to be in line with that force of nature, then that's a prayer. Now, let's see how we can amplify this prayer, and we can. Now, there were a lot of questions here about me praying for others. Can I pray for them? Can I pray for others? Can I pray with others? So the answer is yes, and that's the only way to pray. For others and or with others. That's the only way to pray. So let's understand why. Okay, so each and every one of us, and we're going to do a quick exercise in just a few minutes, so get ready. So each and every one of us, we're all part of this spiritual, like, superorganism, right? A collective soul. That's the only thing that was created, this desire, and we were all part of that desire. We still are, actually, even though we don't feel it. But that's what was created, a collective soul. That's it. And that desire that we all have inside of us to find meaning, to find purpose, that desire for spirituality, that same desire that led you right now even here to watch this video, however it led you here, it's part of something eternal. It's not part of your body, of my 37-year-old body or your however old you are body. No, that desire inside that's pushing you to find something higher in reality, this pure, beautiful desire that you have in you, it's yours, but it's not your body's. It's something that's lived not for 50 or 100 years. It's part of something eternal, an eternal consciousness that existed 14 billion years ago, or even before there was time, before there was anything. That's when that desire of yours that you have in you now, that's where it came from. It's the only thing that was created by this force of nature. It's that single super organism collective desire. And each and every one of us now, we are a shattered piece of that desire, a separated, closed, encapsulated piece of that same collective desire. Now, in fact, that's the only thing that's broken in reality. It's that collective soul. Because when we correct that collective soul, then we become one with that force. That our separateness from that force is simply our separateness from each other. So how can you amplify a prayer? So before I mean, I think it's pretty clear now how, but we'll elaborate more in a minute. But I want to do an exercise, okay? Because if we pray together to be like this force, then we're not only activating that individual dot inside of us, we're activating the entire system. And that force is powerful. That force can cure, can aid, can lift, can help, can enlighten. It's a very powerful force. But let's try and exercise with this for a second. Let's play around with it a little bit. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to close your eyes just for a couple of minutes. Go on, don't be shy. And even if you're watching a recording now and you're not watching live, do it anyway, because a true prayer is above time and space. You can connect to this moment now from any time and anywhere, even in a week or in a year or in 10 years. We're now going to create this imprint into reality together. We'll try. So close your eyes for a second, right? And try to picture this. Imagine what we defined as a prayer, the true prayer that's coming from the inside, from the bottom of your heart, from that point that's inside of you. Try to really imagine it. Right now, you're activating something that's beyond this world, that's higher than this reality. And this, like a ray of light, it opens up like this beam, and it automatically connects you to this force of love and light. Okay, so just try and sense that for a second. Now, it's similar to the light, so it can interact with it, but you can open your eyes. But it's a really thin light. It's just a single ray, because imagine that what you have inside of you is just a dot. And from that dot, imagine that dot connecting to that force. What can it connect with? Just in Kabbalah, it's called ner dakik, a thin light. So it can connect to the light, but very, very thinly. Now, let's try this again. Let's try and close our eyes again. Everyone, we're going to form a collective prayer here on social media right now from all around the world. It's going to be awesome. So let's close our eyes together. You ready? Don't be shy, do it. Now, let's try and imagine that we're forming this prayer, each and every one of us, and we're praying for this force to bring us closer. Not me, to bring us closer. All of us, every single one of us. And not just us, but our loved ones as well. And not just our loved ones, but all of humanity. Now, those dots that are in each and every one of us, keep your eyes closed. Imagine how all these dots, instead of connecting directly to this force of nature like before, individually, instead they're connecting to each other. And they're forming this network of light. And this network, this whole, not ray, but wave of light, that's what starts interacting with this force of reality. So we're no longer interacting with it through this tiny, thin light. We're interacting with it with an entire wave, with an ocean. And this ocean is now influencing every single one of us individually, all of us collectively, and right now it's also influencing the entire world. That is a prayer. That is a prayer of many in Kabbalah. It's a prayer by many, and it's a prayer for many. So I hope you all felt that. I hope you all experienced it. Maybe to conclude, let's try and hold on to this prayer, this collective prayer, which is really the most powerful force of reality. It's all of us praying together for all of us, for all of humanity, to come closer to this force of love and to be one with it. So I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope you felt the power of it. And if you did, then please like and share, so more people can also experience it. They can also chip into it, participate. I'm Gil Shear. This was Kabbalah Explained Simply, and today we spoke about what is prayer, and we also prayed together, I think. So I appreciate that. I'm grateful for that opportunity. And if you're watching this throughout this week, then write your questions. We might do another session about this next week. I see it's powerful, and I didn't get to as many questions as I would have liked to. There were so many great questions. So we'll see you guys next week, and stay tuned for the great transition, which is happening right now on our social media, YouTube and Facebook, Kabbalahinfo, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.